When I was 2 years old, my parents noticed that I was not speaking. Quickly thereafter, the doctors diagnosed me as deaf. For the next 12 years of my life, I learned to speak. I spent many Sunday afternoons with my mother on the bedroom carpet, and she'd teach me words. We call these sessions words. And basically, we would sit there and she would teach me words, and I would never forget the story that my mother told me about the first word I learned. It was the word up. She held me in her arms, and she carried me up and down the stairs. And she said to me, "Caroline, we're going up. Up we go. Up." All my mom's friends and family thought she was crazy, taking on this grand project. But I watched her say the word up. I see how she opened and closed her mouth. Up, and close with a pop. Finally, she would take my hand and she would place it on her throat, and I'd feel through the vibrations what kind of sound she was trying to make. Finally, at the age of 2.5, I said the word back to her, up. When my mom heard these words, she was so overjoyed. She cried tears of happiness. I asked her, "Why did you teach me to speak instead of teaching me sign language?" And she said, "Caroline, it's because I wanted you to connect with anyone in this world. I wanted you to introduce yourself and say hello. I wanted you to stand in front of an audience and express yourself and your ideas." Not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for her teaching how to speak. The ability to connect with anyone is such a privilege. I'm able to connect with anyone I can. And through the process of learning how to speak, I've grown to learn about the power of the word. I'm going to share a few short stories with you about the power of the word. By the time I was in 2nd grade, I had slowly but surely built up my vocabulary. However, it was a little on the simple side. So I had a plan. After school, I was going to read the dictionary. It was a little tedious, but I kept reading it. And then the next day, I go into class, and I say these very smart and complex words. And I thought I was so impressive. But the teacher would come over and say, "Caroline, we don't know why you're using these words. We're very proud of you, but you're not using them correctly." I was embarrassed in the moment, and it's funny now. But when I reflect back on it, I realized, sure, I used smart and complex words, but they didn't understand what I was saying. And I have found time and time again, by using simple words, you can connect so much more powerfully with anyone. By being simple, you're not dumbing down. You're being smarter with your time and your words. Be powerful by being simple. Words allows us to connect with others, but they also allow us to imagine a future. About 2 years ago, I was skiing down the slopes of New Zealand, and I took a wrong turn, and snap. I broke 3 out of 4 of my knee ligaments. It was a very serious injury, and I immediately went into surgery. As I'm exiting the fog of anesthesia, I see the surgeon staring at me with a very serious face. And she says, "Caroline, that was a very serious injury. You're going to have to work very hard to walk again." And I remember in that moment thinking, I'm deaf already. Like, my life is hard enough as it is. But he was right. It was really hard. I would go to physical therapy, not make any progress. I was barely able to bend my knee. And slowly, as the days went by, as the weeks went by, fear crept into me. What if I never walk again? Finally, after a lot of resistance, I met with a sports psychologist. Her name was Linda. And she would sit me down and she'd say, "Okay, let's close our eyes. Let's imagine you walking again." I'm a little bit of a skeptical person. So I'm like, what is this exercise? But she would walk me through. She'd say, okay, let's imagine you sitting and getting up. Imagine you walking. Imagine you running, feeling grass on your ankles. So I did. Every day I wake up and I imagine myself doing all these things. And what happened afterwards was amazing. I made rapid progress in my physical therapy. I started walking again. I was able to run. And everyone was amazed. They didn't understand what was happening, except me. I knew that the surgeon had healed my body with the operation. But Linda, the sports psychologist, had healed my body with words. I was able to visualize the future. She gave me a seed of a dream. When you think about how you use words, you can either address the hardships. You had a really bad injury, or you can address the future and address and make up a vision. You can do it for yourselves or for others. Be powerful by being inspirational. My last story is a love story. I love to write love letters. I have a whole stack of them on my desk, but I've never really sent them because I didn't want to creep out the person I was dating. Until I finally met someone last year who I wanted to send a letter to. I wrote it all in one go, and I sent it off. I didn't hear anything. I was terrified. But finally, I got a response back, and it was beautiful. And someone once said to me, being in love feels like when you've lost everything, but then it's been returned to you. And that's how I felt in that moment. A week later, I'm at this person's house. And I see in the corner a wastebasket. And it has all the drafts of my letter. So I decided to do what any mature person would do. I respected this person's privacy. No. I obviously read them all. I'm embarrassed to say that. But I read them all. And I actually learned something really interesting. I'm reading through these drafts, and I noticed something strange. There were all these really tender and vulnerable words that were crossed out. But when I compared it to the final letter I received, I noticed that my final letter only had those tender and vulnerable words. And that's where the beauty of the letter came from. Be powerful by saying the lines that you want to cross out. How do you measure a life? You measure a life through words. Words are like seeds. When we say them, they float through the air. They can remain a seed, or they can grow into something beautiful. Words can distance, or they can connect. Words can harm, or they can heal. And words can transform lives, like they have done for me. All of you, as you go through this life, think about how we use the power of the word to connect, inspire, and to lift up. Thank you.